I am the body snatcher. You know we love tummy tucks on this show. Welcome back to Boxing.
Welcome back, loyal fight fans, to another round of boxing. I am your humble host, Tummy Tom O'Neill, and we're doing a little test run here on a new computer bought specifically for doing this show, and kind of more initiating myself to just dedicating myself to this show. I hope you appreciate my time and effort that I put into the show. You know what I appreciate for that from you guys is the thumbs up, the subscribe button, and telling crazy ex-girlfriends who enjoy combat sports about this show. We got to get them invested, right? Anybody who likes a combat sports show, tell them about this podcast. They'd probably enjoy watching this as well. We have a big weekend in boxing to jump right into. By the way, again, this is a test run on this new computer. So hopefully on this episode, we'll be able to sneak the intro in here as well. So let me start off like this. We'll just give you a rundown of this weekend for boxing. On ESPN, we have Miguel Berchelt versus Jeremiah Nakatila. That's going to be a banger of a fight, a great fight, the return of Miguel Berchelt. The zone, we have Kiko Martinez taking on Josh Warrington for a real deal title, not one of those kind of made up belts, but a real world title. Also on that undercard, Maxi Hughes versus Ryan Walsh, which will be a very good fight, very fun fight, I'm guessing. Showtime has got Tim Tszyu taking on Terrell Ghosh, and there's a show in Dubai with a stranger kind of main event, but on that undercard, we got Marcus Maidana. On that undercard, we got Austin Trout on that undercard, literally versus some guys. It's to be determined, but hopefully we get to see him as well. And we got a really good weekend of making picks. If you guys so choose to, that will be towards the end of the show. I'm giving the odds, I'm giving my picks and my reasonings after kind of already breaking down certain fights, certainly focusing heavy on the return of Miguel Berchelt. But before we get into that, I really kind of wanted to shout out UFC Fight Night London, because this was a fight night, which means it's not a pay-per-view. We've got some great fights on there, great showcase of talent in London. I think it's important to mention that we had Eddie Hearn, sitting front row, promoter for DAZN for boxing, sitting front row and his friends a bit with Dana White, where he's not so friendly with other promoters. And there could be something to that. I always love when we get, the two different sports, but they're both great combat sports, and you get them just kind of rubbing shoulders with each other. It makes you feel as if something might happen. Now, will it? I don't know what it would lead to. In this case, I think that a first initial deal, not a boxer versus MMA sort of thing to happen right off of the bat, but I think that it's very possible that from this we get the talks of Eddie Hearn saying, hey, I could help you out since this was such a success here in London. I'm from London. I have connections here. I think I can help you get a deal worked out to get a stadium fight here. And because they would then, they're already friendly and would then be working together just for a UFC show in a stadium in London, which would be a big deal. I think from that, and if you do business transactions with each other there and then feel comfortable, that does open the doors to some things, because the hardest part is the first step for these guys to work with each other. And so if you have that first step accomplished, it's a lot easier to go back and say, yeah, and we can make this deal easy because I know I can trust you, you can trust me, we've worked together before, sort of thing. But yeah, I thought it was a great showcase of talent there in London. We had Patti Pimlett fighting now. As far as Patti Pimlett's concerned, and especially because really, I'm more of a boxing kind of guy, you can't help but notice that this kid gets hit a lot. Not hit a lot, like always just completely not defensively rounded out yet. He's young, and that is to be expected, but he just keeps his hands down, doesn't care when he gets hit, and kind of has an instinct when he gets his chin touched really good, where he can even get wobbled from it. Or like in this fight again, like in the fight before, he's had a lot of fights where he gets really, hit really hard, and he either gets wobbled or his head will completely snap back. and he has an instinct to stay right there in the pocket and just exchange like, fuck this. And he's been getting the better of guys, but there will come a time. And I don't think that we're going to have to wait that long. I don't think that we'll have to get to the highest level, in UFC of his weight class to see him lose. It's a big hype train because the guy's a character, because he's from London, because of the cool accent he's got going on, and he's got a whole kind of a, it's a kind of a poor man's Conor McGregor really kind of thing going on for him. That's just the best way to put it, is the truth. But he is fun, and I do like him, and there's nothing I don't like about him except for that, that's just a flaw that'll get exposed. If you're just relying on, like, I'm tough so I can take a shot, but ooh, that hurt, but I'm going to stand here because I'm a warrior, that is the definition of not using technique. He's good on I mean, he has a lot of submissions. Now, he's getting these knockouts coming into UFC, which might be a part of this. He's gotten touched up before in the chin, as we mentioned before this, but I think coming into the UFC, maybe feeling like, with all the hype, I'm going to get these knockouts, because really before that, he's a lot of submissions, and he's very good on the ground, or very good for his age, for where he's at, for his experience level on the ground. He's not really using that much. So, yeah, I just think if he's standing there and exchanging, it's very simple, man. I mean, not just for him, but for anybody. Like, if Canelo Alvarez decided to stand and trade and not use counters, not block shots, not use head movement, not get off the angle, if he decided, he's the greatest fighter, active fighter fighting today, if he decided to just stand there and have a tough competition with somebody about who can eat more shots, he'll win some and then he'll lose some too. Anybody would. So I just see that coming in the future for Patti Pimlett. And then we have Tom Aspinall, or Molly Mccann first. Molly Mccann, the meatball. She got a fantastic knockout, which literally might be the greatest female knockout that I've ever seen in mixed martial arts. Though I haven't seen every single fight, I've seen a lot of those fights as well. I'd like to fancy myself at the very least more than a casual fan of that sport as well, and that might be the best. There are more devastating, like when Shevchenko, took Jessica Ai's head off with that head kick. That was a lot more brutal. But a spinning, back fist, spinning elbow mid-exchange, and you don't see that a lot even with the men. He's sometimes doing everyone goes, wow, we've just never seen that in a female MMA fight. That was fantastic. And then Tom Aspinall just dispatching of Volkov was eye-opening, to the point where, I picked him to win, by the way. If you guys watched the last show, I'm definitely going to pat myself on the back again when it does happen, because sometimes we lose. But again, last week the picks came through for you guys, so I hope that if you took my advice, you guys would have won some money on that for sure. So all the picks came through for that parlay, and Tom Aspinall was one of them. But it was really eye-opening nonetheless to see how easily he handled Volkov, how easily he was able to just get the takedown, and how fluidly I am doing this now with a new computer. But yeah, that was a great show. So I wanted to get that out of the way and just kind of mention that. And then we're going to move on to the boxing that had taken place. We got to talk about Xander Zayas first. So Xander Zayas, got a victory that was very clean in my opinion. He looked very good. He is not even 20 years old, I believe, or maybe he just turned 20. I know he's under 21 years old. I think he's 19 still. Very young, fighting as a professional fighter. And this Puerto Rican kid just looks like the real deal. But we got to be careful, because to follow that up and transition, we're going to talk now about Edgar Berlinga. And if you guys watch the fight, I'm sure you share a similar opinion. I'm not going to go that far out there, but I have a little tweak on my take of the whole thing with Edgar Berlinga, where one, he's not knocking people out anymore. We wanted him to knock out Steve Rolls in under 4 rounds. He won regardless, but That fight was a lot closer than they scored it, first off. You could have scored that fight a draw. So that was a dangerous looking kind of going to decision, and I think they just, not only did they give it to him, but they made the scores wider, and that seems like a bit of favoritism. And that's because all the fame that he has acquired. He's walking out to Fat Joe, and my God, I hope these pop-ups are not ruining my video, but we're going to just work with it. We're going to work through it. So my take on the Edgar Berlinga thing is that I think Edgar Berlinga, he came in 16 knockouts in a row in the first round. Okay, in the first round. Not 16 knockouts in a row, but 16 first-round knockouts, absolutely obliterating Tyson's first-round knockout stretch. He was something to behold, and there's good reason why he has earned the fame that he has gotten. But this was his first headliner, and like I had mentioned before, his first fight where it didn't get to a first-round knockout, me and most people took it as, this is still good because the guy dominated in the fight. Berlinga still dominated his opponent through all 8 rounds. So it wasn't a first-round finish, but it was very dominant, and he dropped him several times. And the guy was just tough enough to keep getting back up, ran away enough a bit. This was the first time that it broke the 16-fight knockout stretch on his 17th fight. But dominant nonetheless, and so it looked good that he was getting in-the-ring experience, and looked good that he had enough cardio to keep continuing and not really slow down and be relentless on this guy who was clearly just there to survive in that fight. We went from that to Edgar Berlinga in his next fight actually getting dropped. Possibly, that's a close enough fight in his favor as well where he could score that a draw after 8 rounds, but possibly could say he lost that fight. So that's not just now going all the way, and he's not knocking guys out in the first round. Who cares? You're leveling up. Fighters are seeing more of you and more film to study and whatnot. But getting dropped and almost losing that fight was iffy. We picked him to knock out Steve Rolls because Steve Rolls is older. Steve Rolls has lost on his big tests. He fought Triple G and just got starched, and I just thought this was good for Edgar Berlinga. Now this was not good for him. In the end, he gets another decision here, but again, the fight was closer. It was just unarguably closer than the way that they scored it. You could go draw. I personally did give this fight to Edgar Berlinga, but not on the scorecards that the judges gave. I gave this, 10-round fight to Berlinga. I scored it 6-4, and some of those rounds were close. And Steve Rolls was winning, quite a bit of moments in this fight, especially as the fight went on longer. And so this is not good, right? But what you're hearing is what's wrong with Edgar Berlinga. I have a little twist on that this is not good in any way, but I would say this could be, in my opinion, and from what I'm seeing, a problem with not the overall coaching, but how many coaches. And who knows how he's getting trained. So maybe a coaching problem in 1 or 2 of them, but he has a lot of coaches. He has too many cornermen. There's too many voices talking to him in the corner. And one guy, and they're all being sound on one thing, and it's always, don't load up on that right hand, which sounds good, right? Well, that's using technique. That's boxing better. That's learning, how to box better, which is something, truthfully, that, yes, he has to do, but in my opinion, when you have a guy like Edgar Berlinga, and this could go for various different situations, but anyways, in his case, he's a knockout guy. He's a power puncher, okay? He can box a little bit, but not great, and it's certainly not his strong suit. It's quite obvious what his strong suit is, so I just think that when you have a guy like that, you do need to get him to start learning how to box better, be more technical as he steps up in competition. Because He's not just going to get first round knockouts all the time. You know, sure, against journeyman and coming into his pro career, he's getting those. But you're seeing now how he doesn't. So it's natural that is what you want to do. You want to teach him more boxing. But I just think that if you have someone like that, you have to do it incrementally. So I think you have to, you have to say to them what we're going to train in this camp and what we're going to try to tell you during the fight, and what we want you to do isn't have 17 coaches around you, which is too many people talking to you to pay attention, right, for one. And for two, we're not going to just blatantly tell you, box better. Look, we showed you like 1,000 different things from 17 different coaches constantly showing you different. And this one's teaching you, how to counter off of this certain shot. And this one's teaching you the jab. And then this guy's all defense and just be defensive and put you in there for rounds against other fresh guys trying to hurt you and learn your deep. That's too much at once. It's too much at once. So everybody knows you can't just, if you go to the gym and you box, if you go to the gym and you spar at all, you do anything like that, your best guy in the gym is not ready for the worst guy in a pro career. Not ready for it at all. And so it's quite obvious to everybody, right, that this takes a long time and you dedicate your entire life. I mean, these guys have families and then they don't see them a lot. And they're away at training camps, and every single day, it might take a Sunday off, but 6 days out of the week, these guys are at the gym and learning and sparring and running drills and hitting the bag and working out and being trained by coaches, okay? So it's for everybody. It's not that easy. So you can't just put somebody in there who's a pure, like a power puncher, and they don't box very well, they're not very technical, and just go, do boxing, be technical. You have to do these things incrementally. So if I was, what the fuck do I know? But you'll get my point here. If I was in the corner of Edgar Berlinga, or before the corner in the training camp for this fight, and that's my goal, is we need to have more boxing ability. We need to be a little more technical. I'm going to gradually do one thing at a time. And the first thing that I'm going to do with him is say, use your jab. And that's easy enough. You can learn that pretty quickly, how to do a jab. And then you can know there's many different variations of jabs, right? And you can learn to be a lot more efficient with them. And even that takes a little while. But you can teach a professional boxer, certainly, if you can teach a normal human being how to throw a jab. And so I'm going to do that with him, and instantly he's going to just be able to throw the jab. I speak, he's a professional fighter, so he knows how to jab, but we're going to drill that, right? And I'm going to say, you're just jabbing. And do 5 rounds, get a little workout, a little sparring. This guy can do whatever. You just try to use a little defense, because he's going to be able to do whatever, but you can only throw your jab. And this is just a little friendly sparring. This is a drill. Use that jab and get used to it, and put it in your mentality. Put it in your brain. Put it in your physical your physical self, that this is something I resort to now because I've drilled it so many times. So I instinctually throw the jab more without thinking about it, because I've been doing. So that's like a good place to start. I think that it is the jab that he should be throwing out there more, instead of all looping hooks looking to take somebody's head off. If you go from there and you work on head movement in the next camp a lot, now you do all these little things, but my point is you do these incrementally, and for one fight at a time for him, and knowing that he's going in there with that power, I'm going to kind of just try to say, do your thing, Edgar. Do your thing. But and he's taking shots, by the way, in there, but with trying to throw all these looping punches. And he's just getting his head jabbed off. So the one good thing out of that bad thing that's happening is that the guy doesn't have a weak chin, okay? So I'm going to a little bit say, kind of do your thing, Edgar, but this is it. It's one thing to focus on. Use the fucking jab, right? And then if it's not the jab and you thought, just be more defensively sound, but you can still throw all those looping shots. I don't agree with that, but whatever, fine. Then work on your head movement. Use more head movement, Edgar. Just do that, right? And it's kind of one thing at a time. He has 17 coaches in his corner, all, shouting different things at him. And then I think I was looking at the fight and feeling like he knows he's losing this fight. And they're still just telling him, don't, in the last round of a close fight, I felt that he, on his face and the way he was fighting, that he could feel, this is closer, okay? This is not comfortable. This is too close. I do got to finish this, and they're telling him, just still, don't load up on that right hand, and do that. And they're not even saying, like, use your jab more, which did he throw a jab in that fight, for fuck's sake? They're just giving him mixed signals. And then you literally have coaches telling him all these just different things, and there's 5 cornermen, all, A-class coaches. And so those coaches all want to be heard because they are A-class coaches, B-class coaches. They're not nobodies, and they're used to being the guy, the head coach. He has 17 head coaches, and they're fighting over what to tell him and who's to listen to. And I think that anyway, after my rant, is the thing with Edgar Berlinga that needs to be worked on is less coaches and implement all these things that you want to, one at a time. You can't turn the guy into a different fighter. Now he's a fantastic boxer after, a couple months in a camp. So just implement one thing at a time. Let the guy go in there with his natural knockout power as well, so he'll have that. And then give him another little tool at a time. And then after so many fights and so many camps, he'll have multiple other tools and he'll be more of the guy that you want him to be. And that's kind of my take on that. Now we're going to talk about Miguel Berchelt, versus Jeremiah Nakatila. So Miguel Berchelt coming in this fight is a favorite, but Nakatila's been on a little bit of a run here as well. So Nakatila's had some good wins here, and Berchelt, I think, should win this fight, but Miguel Berchelt, he is coming off of a bad loss, to a bad knockout of the year contender loss to Oscar Valdez in this little deal right there. So it was a beautiful little show of respect, but he got viciously knocked out. That's why he's on the stool there by Oscar Valdez. And it just wasn't, it just is those kind of losses and those kind of knockouts can really take a lot out of you. Not only mentally, which is a huge part of it, but physically as well. It just, in many ways, it takes a lot away from you. Because not just the loss, you feel like, I could get that back. It was very brutal. We talk about this all the time, but Berchelt is another guy that he doesn't really, like, he's not like a sharp, or he's not a tight puncher, right? So he doesn't keep, he keeps his hands up. He'll walk back, but he'll still get jabbed through his guard, and he's just tough enough to eat the shots. And then even big shots, he can eat quite a bit of those, and he always does. But he's a wide looping punches guy. He'll mix in the jab a little. But he likes straights more and then wide looping punches. And while he's punching, he doesn't punch tight, 1 punch, 2 punch, He punches with his both hands down. He literally just goes. So he's always in danger of being countered badly, which did end up happening in that fight. But so that worries me a little. And just coming back from the loss, but Miguel Burchell, like I said, does have the chin going for him. Although, again, he's never been knocked out viciously like that. That was bad. So that makes, and that's how people's chins start to go. Even people with granite chins, and we've seen it time and again. And usually it'll take more than one of those, but sometimes only one. And really, in almost any case, 2, 3 bad wars, you're kind of really a different person. You're a different person. You're not the same guy that everybody's watching the fights and getting drunk is thinking that you are. So I fear for him a little bit. But I do think the chin will still be there enough for him. And I do think that this isn't like jumping back into another title fight. So that's good. That's a good thing. That's a good way to come back for him. And not a lot of people know that he was, if he would have won the fight with Oscar Valdez, I think he would have then tied the record for most title defenses in that weight class with Julio Cesar Chavez. So a lot of people don't know that. Like, that was another reason why this was so sad. Not only am I a big fan of Miguel Burchell, but that, I forget how many title defenses that would have been. 13, I believe it is what it was, I think. So that's 13 years once you regain a title. He doesn't have that again, so that's simply already, even if he comes back looking fantastic and tries to take as many frequent fights as he can fit into the rest of his career, it's simply unachievable again for him. So that's another reason why I have that picture up there, is because I just appreciate that kind of stuff. When that's devastating. That's devastating. That kind of record, you will never get back to it. There's simply not enough time. So that was taken already from him. I want to see him come back and do well. And I think it's very doable that he gets another world title, but it is a sad thing that he lost that fight. I think he'll do good, and I think he'll win this fight. And the reason why is because, like I said, he does keep his hands down to get countered a little. And Nakatila is a good enough fighter, and it's not that Nakatila can't get a counter off, but I doubt that he uses the boxing precision that Oscar Valdez had on the night of. Oscar Valdez is a good fighter, but that was like the night of his life, and it was like lightning in a bottle for him, really. I mean, just truly, to box that well. Because usually Valdez would just kind of go to war with people before that fight. So, yeah, I just think that he'll throw his Berchelt will be in there throwing his looping punches again. He might get countered here and there, but I don't think that Nakatila is going to hit him as hard and counter as precise and find the timing as precise a time and again. Because, yeah, it doesn't just take one to put down old Berchelt. And I don't think he has it in him to just be drained like Valdez was in that, and just be giving up some rounds and being safe and finding enough back in you to be like, okay, now this is the round, I take it back, and still being sharp enough, and not just riding on will and willpower and strength of mind and stuff. To still be sharp enough in your brain and catch the timing so precisely and move your feet back in just the right way where you're in a stance precise when you time his shot. I don't think that Nakatila has that in him. And Miguel Burchell, infamously, he's always, like I said, gotten hit, and he's just kind of a bully and walks you down. He can take some shots. And he makes sure always, at least, that though he may take clean shots, I mean, quite a bit sometimes, every time, if he takes one, or even if they get off, he takes two. If he takes one good shot, he's giving you three. And if he takes two, he almost makes damn sure he's going to give you six for that. So that's just the kind of fighter that he is, and it usually won't work out. But we see people, we see people do it, and Miguel Berchelt is one of them to kind of make that work. Though it didn't against Valdez in that fight. So I got him to win this fight. The Kiko Martinez-Josh Warrington fight, we're going to pick Josh Warrington to win that fight, and that is kind of under the same precedence that we don't believe that you can get lightning strike in a bottle in the same place twice. That's kind of what happened for Kiko Martinez when he fought Kid Galahad and got the title in his last fight. Was a huge underdog for that fight. Got completely outboxed for every round of that fight until he found that big right hand, that big overhand right that he has. And he'll look to do that again because, he's going to fight Josh Warrington, who goes to war with people as well. Josh Warrington, a real fun fighter to watch out the UK. He'll go to war with people all the time, but he has a lot better boxing ability than Kiko Martinez. Kiko Martinez also very weathered, just been in the sport forever, and I mean forever. So I think that Josh Warrington, I know, let's put it this way. I know Josh Warrington outboxes Kiko Martinez, just like Kid Galahad outboxed Kiko Martinez. But lightning, I don't think, strikes twice, where Kiko Martinez just finds some good one shot to drop, his opponent again in fighting these guys that are A-class, former world champions, current world champions, things like the people like that, fighters like that. So yeah, we got Kiko Martinez losing that fight, and we will end with the parlay. Okay, so here's the official parlay before we go. We got Curtis Blades over Chris Dawkins at -400. Parlaying these all together, you understand. Askar Askarov over Kai Kara France at -350. Alishkab Kezrev over Dennis, and I can't even pronounce this. Tulachulin. Okay, so he's and that is a minus, I believe 250. I think I actually forgot to write down my life's busy. We stopped writing down the odds after this fight, but this is what you got. Yeah, Curtis Blades over Kyle Dawkins, Askar Askarov over Kai Kara France, Alishkab Karazev over Dennis Tulin, Neil Magny over Max Griffin, Josh Warrington over Kiko Martinez, and Miguel Berchelt over Jeremiah Nakatila for roughly, and I put this parlay in already a day ago, yesterday, and at that point you were getting about +330 for your money, +320. So we're putting in, we won last week only off of 30 real dollars that we had in the account. We won $100 off of that. So now we have $130 off of just the $30 that we initially put in. So off of just that initial $30, we're going to let this ride for me into this next weekend. And we're putting the whole 130 down to try to win $400 over the weekend, because that would be nice. Not recommending that you necessarily put down that much money, but like I said, this is just win money already, to try to double up on it. But either way, +300 plus odds is very good on a parlay that I think is quite safe here in this one. And so either way, if you were putting down $30, I think you're winning $100 off of that, so that wouldn't be too bad, or over $100. So yeah, that wouldn't be too bad. And until next time, loyal fight fans, stay loyal. We're gonna get this microphone hooked up, and we're gonna just get all Joe Rogan-y in here. We're gonna get a real professional podcast going on, and we got some big things coming up for next month. Big boxing, big things here on Unboxing. And please hit the thumbs up. I really appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up for me. It really helps the videos get out there, and then other people can get these fantastic picks and win some money over the weekends. God bless, and we'll see you next time.